So thank you guys for joining us and just being a part of our DaySmart Salon webinar series. If you've attended our webinars before, welcome back. And if this is your first webinar with us, welcome to the series. I and a lot of our returning listeners will tell you that you're in for a lot of exciting and valuable information. So if you want to, I'd highly encourage you to take some notes, because I know our guest speaker has a lot of experience and insight to share with us today. Before we begin, I do want to go over some housekeeping notes. Your audio and your cameras are turned off if you haven't noticed that already. But if you have questions, again, please don't hesitate to comment them in the question box on your dashboard. The same way you guys were able to tell me where you guys are tuning in from, you can use that same chat box to ask any questions. Another reminder is that we now have a video library available on the DaySmart Salon website. I'll add a link to the chat box at the end of this webinar so you guys can check it out. But a recording of this webinar will also be added to that library page, so you can go back and watch recordings at any time. Well, now that that's out of the way, I'm so excited to introduce Karen Hardy, our guest speaker today. Karen, I'm going to give you the stage to let you introduce yourself to everyone.
Hi, everyone. First, I want to say thank you for having me on. This is such an honor. So a little bit about myself. I've been in the industry 35 years, salon owner 28 of those years. I was a platform color artist for Joico for years. And I just absolutely love being able to give back to our industry. I think that we have the most amazing industry in the world. And it's an honor to be able to be in it this long and still love what I do. Like, I love our craft and I love the impact that we get to create on the world. And it's something that I take to heart, that it's, you know, like, we have that privilege every day to really make a difference in the world that we live in by the way that we are with our guests and our teams and our employees and our team that we're around all the time. And so I love it. I love just being able to share experiences, good, bad, the ugly, and the amazingness of it. But like, it's just an honor being able to be here with you guys today.
Thank you, Karen. I know a lot of our listeners are really curious about you, and we were initially promoting this webinar. And I think one question I have, and maybe our listeners have too, is how you entered the salon industry, because every story is different and unique in its own way. So I'm curious about your story.
Gosh, from the time I was a little girl, I always wanted to do hair, and I knew I was going to own my salon one day. And so I actually went to beauty school while I was in high school. So by the time I graduated high school, I was already working in the salon. And so it like started there, and I just always loved what I did. At 23, I opened up my own salon. I had no clue what I was doing, literally. The only thing that I knew was that God gave me a really amazing gift at doing hair. I had no clue how to run the business. And at the time, you know, my employees were all older than me. I was only 23. And so that journey started there. And I was a color platform artist. I've had my salon 28 years now. We've also ventured into creating salon suite spaces also. And now I get the privilege and honor to really just help others grow their business to 7 figures plus. You know, like, my salon was named top 200 fastest growing salon in North America many times, and in a small area. So anybody that's thinking that they can't have success because they're in a small town, I want to tell you that you absolutely can. You just have to have a plan, strategy, and be committed to what you want to do.
I love that. I love all of that. And one thing for you guys to know is Karen also does like coaching for salon professionals. What inspired you to kind of take what you learned in those years of starting off or owning your salon and then kind of venturing out by building more into now like coaching and giving people advice to hone in on their own, you know, salon professional journey?
Well, like when I started, you know, like, back then they didn't teach anything about business, right? So like, and that's for most, like, we love what we do. We decide that we want to open up our own business and create what it is that we're wanting, you know? And so that's where that journey started. And even 35 years later, like, business is still not really taught. And so we're throwing students into this world of this beauty industry that has totally evolved over the years. but not knowing business, like saying, okay, go rent a booth or go into a suite, but we don't even know how to handle a client that may not be happy with what you just had done, right? Like, so that's my heart, is to be able to really come alongside of others and help them create what they want with less craziness, with us hiccups, with, like the challenges, because it is easy when you know what you're doing, right? And how to handle things and different ways of looking at it. But it can feel so overwhelming and so alone, even at times,
Yeah. Yeah. What you kind of touched on, the loneliness of starting, a business, which I think for anybody, not just in the salon industry, but anybody, that's a big challenge. Are there some other challenges you faced when opening your first salon and kind of entering the industry?
Oh gosh, it was so different then than it is even now. Like there's so much more ease in it of owning a business part. But I would definitely say that the hardest part was feeling like, because I was behind the chair also, and I actually still work behind the chair like 2 days a week. Like I'm behind it for like 10 hours a week, which is kind of crazy but awesome at the same time. But like really running the business while being behind the chair, right? And I mean, there was a point that I was working like 80 hours behind a chair, and it was just absolutely impossible to run the business the way that I needed to. And that was really probably the biggest breaking point in my business that I can remember, sitting on my salon floor crying, um, because like, God's given you this, right? Like, and you're be able to create this business for others to be able to have the life that they want and be able to build their life upon it too, right? And yet you're missing out on so much of your family and your life, right? And so
Mhm.
that was the point that I was at. I was like, okay, God, like I know there has to be a better way. This is not it, because I'm missing out first steps with my daughter, and that's when I actually said, okay, there has to be a better way. And that's the first time I actually hired a business coach, and that changed my business.
Wow. Wow. This is a question I like to ask all of our guests, and something I'll ask you too. What is something that you wish you knew when you first started that you know now?
I would have hired a coach right away, a business coach, because there were so many trials and things that, if you don't know what you don't know, right? So if you don't know how to run a business and you don't know how to look at the numbers and really how to make it grow, or even how to lead a team, right? Um, getting someone that can come alongside of you and help you create those strategies that you want, or create the plan to be able to get to where you want to go. You want a successful business, but what's it going to take to get there? What are the steps you're going to need to do? How are you going to be able to get there? Having someone that's already been there and done it changes everything, because they can help you through that. Even though everybody's situation, everybody's business is different. And the one thing that I would absolutely say to anybody is, always, if you're going to look into having somebody come alongside or mentor you or coach you, is to have somebody that's already surpassed where you would want to go. Like, because they can see bigger, and they can see the path to take with less resistance even, and get you there faster. Because the thing is, like, you want to get there as fast as you can. It shouldn't take that long. Like, it shouldn't take
Mhm.
years to build a clientele. It shouldn't take years to become profitable in your business. But if you know your numbers, you can create it faster. But it's really knowing the business side of it that makes a difference. But a coach, that would be my first thing I want to do.
Preach. I think, a pattern I've seen with our DaySmart Salon community and our audience is asking for help can be very tricky. And I think that's why even people's decisions to do things like hire a business coach or purchase software to help their business run more easily, to them, it feels like they are giving up in a way, or trading in, like, that independence, when that's not the case. I think we've all kind of now understood that working in the salon, no matter what you do, no matter what your job title is extremely difficult. And finding that balance is equally as difficult. So looking for resources and people along the way who can make your life a little bit easier is definitely the way to go. But before
Absolutely.
we dive deep into our conversation, I did want to understand our audience a little bit more. I'm seeing some Karen is awesome comments in the question box, which is very cool already.
Thank you.
But as you all know, this webinar, just to preface, is all about like cultivating client relationships, which can set your salon apart from your competitors. I'm going to launch a poll right now because I'm curious to know what client connection strategies our audience have already implemented at their salons. So guys, I'm going to redirect your attention to the screen and launch our first poll of the day. And all you guys need to do is answer this question. So the first question is, which strategies have you implemented at your salon to strengthen your customer relationships? Select all that apply, and I'll give you guys a minute to do that. All right, I'm seeing some interesting responses. Just a few more seconds. Okay. Awesome. I'm gonna go ahead and close that poll and share the answers with you guys. All right. So Karen, I'm not sure if you can see our results.
I
But we
can.
did get some interesting feedback. Awesome. So in that response to our question, 17% of our audience said that they've already implemented client loyalty programs. 33% said collecting client feedback. The majority of our audience said two-way texting, which is very interesting, and I love to hear that. 50% said other, and 17% said nothing yet. What are your thoughts on this data?
Well, I love the different answers, first of all. And I think the customer relationship is like the biggest piece that's going to create the success. And so I would love that. I love the two-way texting, like, and then how that's like created relationships with the guest. Like, I love that even. Collective feedback is so important too. And loyal programs, like there's so many different things that you could do with like loyalty programs and all that. So, but the one thing is to strengthen, you know, the relationships with our guests. That's the key to the success is right there. Whether you're gonna like
Yeah.
have a business longevity and how you're gonna be able to repeat clients and all that. So yeah, I mean, they were great.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm glad that our audience is already kind of taking the first steps to implement that. But for the 17% who answered nothing yet, like the first step is to come here, right? And to look for resources to figure out how to do that. So for those of you who answered that, I'm glad you're here. And that means we can just dive in a little further. We often talk about building client relationships on this platform, but it goes over people's heads because it's not exactly measurable. You and I talked about this when we first met, but client relationships is not direct data that helps us figure out, oh, are we getting ROI on this right away, right? It takes time. Why is client relationship building important at any salon, and how has it led to your salon's overall growth?
I think the client relationship is it's the most important thing because that's what's going to create the success. And I think that it starts way before they even enter the salon, you know, but it's creating that relationship, it's creating those touch points, but it's not just, so I want to like, it's not just for someone that, oh my gosh, my computer, I'm sorry, someone that owns a salon, right? Like, even if you are an employee, like, it's your responsibility too to have that relationship with your guest, to keep them coming back. And if your salon owner is not implementing things, then I would highly suggest to like sit down with them and share with them like what your goals are for that and how like you would love to even help them in that, you know, because there's sometimes like salon owners don't see the ways that they can do stuff or not, or they're just thinking that their team may not be open to other things, right? So but that's the one thing that I can tell you that the success that came with my salon and being able to grow it and creating that was a customer journey. And that started from before they entered the salon to even in between the appointments. Like every touch point is so important, and it's creating systems around it to be able to have your front desk do it. You know, there should be a system to what you do so that you know, and you can then track it, right? Because you'll be able to see your numbers growing even from your
Right.
rebooking, you know, like the retentions, like all those things. It takes time to see the numbers, right? But you can definitely track it after the fact.
Right. And a lot of people say, like, what does that even look like? What does like an effective communication strategy look like when it comes to approaching your guests or your clients? So for you, like, what are some effective communication techniques that you have implemented at your salon that you saw some success in?
So the most important would be like, you know, the way the guest is greeted when they first come in, right? It's so important. Like somebody walking in and them not even being acknowledged. Like we all know how that feels, right? So I always say, put yourself in in your guest shoes, you know, a new guest or even a returning guest. So many times, like we'll take that for granted, the new guest,
Mm-hmm.
the returning guest that's been coming for years or whatever. But it starts there, like when they walk in to how they're a consultation. Like if you're not doing consultations every time a guest comes in, like you're missing opportunities to really be able to listen and hear what that guest is wanting that will keep them in your chair or your treatment room longer than any other thing. And really being able to hear what their struggles are instead of, you know, like just don't be the color artist or the um, one maybe coming in for a cut and be like, oh, just come on back and not even like sit down with them, you know, and ask the
Right.
questions like, what worked this month? Is there anything that we need to tweak? Were you having any issues? You know, anything going on? Like asking those questions is so important. Having a really strategic consultation with your guest, especially first time, is like, that's what's going to make the difference of them returning to you or not. You know,
Yeah.
so if that's not something that's implemented, but those touch points, even that, like making sure that you're sharing about the retail that you're using, you know, so that when you are done with them, like, and I always say, like, there's magic keeping that cape on. Talk about all those things beforehand when they're coming back for their next appointment, what retail you use, like, talk about all those things before you take that cape off. Because once you take that cape off of them, or you tell them to go get changed in a treatment room, their mind is already on their next step. So if you don't talk about it beforehand, like not talk about it when you're up at the reception desk, that will set you up more to fail than it is setting it up. Like you should be talking to them, telling them when they need to come back. You need to be back in 4 weeks, you know, so that you can maintain and keep what you got going on, and just really taking ownership of it. Like when we go to a doctor or anybody, they don't say, we would like to see you. Do you think you can come back at this time? Like they tell us, this is when we need to see you again. Like,
Right.
you know, really just owning the professionalness that we are in.
Yeah, I love that point. And when we had talked the first time, I told you about an experience that I had had, not as a salon professional, but as a salon client. I had walked into a salon after making an appointment, and when I walked in, nobody greeted me and nobody told me what to do, where to go, who to go see, where to sign in, any of that. So I'm like kind of awkwardly standing at the kiosk figuring out what to do while everybody else working at the salon was busy and nobody had taken even just a few minutes to say, hey, welcome, go ahead and check in here or go sit down here, right? And that makes all the difference when you talk about touch points and what to do before an appointment. It starts there too, right? It starts with
Absolutely.
what is the experience and how does a client feel when they step into your salon? Are they feeling welcome? Are they feeling anxious because they don't know what to do? So making sure that's clear.
Absolutely.
That's a big thing.
And one thing that is like a trend that's going on in the industry is that people are going like deskless, so not having someone at the front desk or whatever. And so if you're doing like if anybody here is doing that, like what I would encourage is to send, if you have a new guest that's coming in, so they've never been, like, send them like a welcome letter, explaining to them what they should be expecting when they come in. And when you get in, you're going to check in at this little kiosk station, whatever it is, but take all the guesswork away from them so that when they come in, they know what to expect, right? And it will, it's, that stress level just goes down. And that's, you don't want someone coming in and being anxious, right? Or not knowing what to do. And if your station's there at the first, near the door, you know, as a salon owner, mine was, because that was very important to me. I never wanted a guest not to feel welcomed and honored coming into, you know, my place. And so my station was always there, so that I would always stop just to say hello and we'll be with you in a moment if everybody was busy, whatever. But like, just that little bit makes a difference. And even as your receptionist, you can have 5 people trying to be checked out, but somebody comes in, they see you're busy, but if you just acknowledge them, they know you're busy, so they'll be fine. But acknowledging somebody makes a world of difference of how you are seen in their eyes. And that's going to tell them whether they're going to tell their guests, their friends about you, or they're not.
Yeah.
That simple thing, just that one little thing will make or break them coming to you and telling their friends.
And when we talk about what separates you from your competitors, what separates your salon from other salons, it's that. I can get an amazing blowout anywhere. Honestly, I could go anywhere and get a great blowout. Your services could be the bomb.com. But if I don't feel good when I step into your salon, if I don't feel greeted, if I don't feel like I'm a part of your community, that's going to cause me to look somewhere else. And if anything, I really want people to take that away, is what
Absolutely.
does your client experience look like?
And your goal should be to exceed your guest experience or their expectations every time they come in. Like it, that, the only way to be successful, really, honestly, because there's talent out there. There's a lot of talent. You can be educated everywhere nowadays. It's what secret sauce you bring to it. So you as a salon, like as a whole, what does that look like? But you also as a professional service provider, what does that look like? What is it that sets you apart from the hairdresser next to you? Just right. What is it that's going to make them come to you instead of them? Not that you're ever wanting to down anybody, but everybody has a special piece in themselves. It's their gift that they give to the world. And there's going to be people for you and there's people that are not for you. And that's okay, right? Like we can't be for everybody because we can't service everybody. But knowing what that is and really coming in every day in that person. Like your goal should be like, I'm going to exceed every expectation that they have. I'm going to do the very best that I do, no matter what. And that's what will take and make you successful, like long term, like guests coming forever, that you're like, oh my gosh, please go see somebody else. Because you know, like they know that when they tell their friend about you, they know how their friend's going to be treated, and that's what's going to make the difference. I mean, because your guest should be the one that's building your clientele. Like, if you're doing your job, you never have to market. Not that you never have to, but what I'm saying is that if you're doing your job as a salon and as service providers, your guest will be your raving fans. And that's why you should have a customer journey that will exceed every expectation that they have. And you have to create that as a whole.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. The marketing is kind of done for you. If your client walks away with a great experience, you can trust that they're going to talk about you, because they always do. They always do.
Absolutely. And if you're still growing your book, like I always say you pick the best 5 guests that you absolutely love spending that time with and share with them. Like, I'm still growing my book and I love every time that you sit in my chair and the time that we have together. And I would love to have more guests just like you. And so I know you must have friends that are like you. So share with them, like, I'm still growing my book. People genuinely want to help other people, but they don't know that we may be still growing, right? They don't know that, you know, you're not book solid because they did see somebody leave your chair or your treatment room. So I'm always like, your guest is your best way to get your book filled.
Yeah.
But you have to do your
part. I love that.
And that's given that expectations always.
Always, always. I'm seeing some questions trickle in, guys, and keep answering your questions. We're going to reserve those for the end because I know we're a little short on time here. But I did want to move on to, I know we touched a little bit about client retention, how to get your clients to come back, how to get them to kind of spread the word about your salon. A large percentage of a business's revenue comes from loyal and returning customers. And if you didn't know that, now you know, and you should be paying more attention to that. Karen, can you give some tips on how salons can effectively incentivize and encourage their customers to come back for another appointment?
Well, I pre-book them. Nobody leaves the salon without their next appointment. And that goes like, that's why I said, like, when the service provider is the one that needs to be doing that, you know, and setting those expectations. Because when you're, excuse me, I'm sorry, when you're taking and doing a service, like, you should automatically be saying, in order to keep this look up, you'll need to be here every 4 or 6 weeks, whichever one it is. And we'll book that today before you leave, you know. And so always at the desk, right? Like, somebody will say, oh, well, I don't know what my calendar is in 4 weeks. That's okay. We're still going to book that. If there is anything that you can't do it, call me back and we will reschedule, because it's easier to get it rescheduled than it is to get back to get in with me. And that's a big, like, that's the biggest thing that that pre-booking. And so often it's, you know, and your front desk has to know what to say, how to handle that. And that's where having strategies, having your little paragraphs of what to say and how to handle things is important, because it will make the difference. You know, you should, every guest that is with you should leave. Even, I don't care if it's even 3 months from now that, you know, they have a lived in style, and that's when you need to see them, is in 3 months. Well, you book it then, you know, and that's, you get the best time that say, we want to get you on schedule because I'm busy, whether you are not, it doesn't matter. Right? I'm busy. The holidays are here. Like, let's get you in here because I know it's going to fill up, and I want to make sure that you are getting the time and the day that's best for you. Make it about them, not about you.
Yeah, yeah. I want to pull out a quote that you said for a second. You said, it's easier to pre-book with me than to try to fit an appointment in with me, or something like that. I think that is amazing to tell your clients, because that says to them, uh-oh, let me just get this out of the way, because I'm not going to be able to see Karen in the next few months if I decide to just randomly book an appointment with her. And for those of you who are listening too, I've seen at a lot of salons, they will print that out and like put it near the door or by their individual mirrors to say pre-book to get in with me, rather than just scheduling an appointment. And that is the way to go, 100%.
Absolutely.
So I know somebody in the chat said that they do punch cards for loyalty programs. Are there some other loyalty programs that your salon has used in the past that have worked?
We really didn't do loyalty programs. The one thing that we did do was we did a referral program. So every guest someone sent in, they would get money, like we had it, you know, the salon money, so it was totally chic money that they were able to use towards service or retail for every guest that they invited in that became a salon guest. So it's not just like one time, one done, you know, like you want them to become into your salon family and become a guest of the salon. So, and pretty much, and that will pay like several times, you'll be able to take and pay for the service, right? So that was one thing that we did. I never did a loyalty program. I was never into discounting, big discounts either. So that was something that we would do packages and stuff like that. I never wanted to, you know, this is what I could say for salon owners, like what it is that you want your salon to be received as, right? Like, so setting that kind of bar right in the beginning and knowing that, like, if you want to be more affordable, things like that, then that's the atmosphere that you want to create. I personally wanted to have a high-end salon, that we weren't a discount salon, we weren't a walk-in salon, because I knew the clientele that we wanted to create and what we wanted to attract. So that's what I had to create.
Yeah, and every salon is different, right? And I'm sure our listeners
Absolutely.
are taking notes, being like, Karen did this, so I need to do this. No,
No, no,
that's
no, no.
not the case. Assess what your salon needs
Right.
and then figure out how to build a strategy.
Yeah. It's what you want for your salon to be. Like, there's some salons that they want walk-in traffic all the time and just be able to, like, that was kind of the salon I first started at when I was right out of school. You know, it depends what you want to create, and that's how you build things around it. Like, I knew that I wanted to not have to market, and I wanted my guests to refer, so like we knew that we had to create that. We had a welcome package for our new guests that literally we actually had like cards done up, and that had like different services, like in our spa and our nails and stuff like that. So if it was a nail client, they got some little incentives to come see somebody in the hair area, and vice versa. So like, creating things that's going to fit that's for your business is what it is. Don't look left or right. What's yours? Like, don't compare. Take ideas from everybody. You can take ideas, right? But create what you're wanting to create is the biggest thing.
Does your salon offer a wide range of services to cater to different demographics? And like, what does that look like?
So we definitely had a range of services, obviously, but definitely, it really, we knew what we wanted, and that's where we stayed. Okay, so like, we knew the guest clientele that we wanted to create, and that atmosphere. We created what we needed to keep within that range, and reach the audience that we wanted to. So I knew that, how can I get in front of the people that we want to bring in? And that was, getting into local communities that I knew the people lived, right? So how do you do that? They all have groups. Like, we went into women's groups and spoke to them about something. We did live fashion shows where we would come in and do the hair and makeup for all the models, and you'd have 500 people there, right? That your name was out there. Really becoming the face of the community where you want to build is really a big thing. And giving back to your community in that respect. Like, how can you do that? So if you're trying to go outside your area where your salon is, like, marketing yourself that way, meaning get inside the communities, get inside the businesses, partner with other businesses that have the clientele that you want, so that you can partner together and grab those ways. It's really about how you can take and create the opportunities, and that's just one of the few. Partner with other businesses, partner with, if you don't do nails, but there's a nail salon down the street that has your clientele that you're wanting, well, then partner with them. Go in there, introduce yourself, and you guys can help each other grow. There's just so many different ways to do it.
Yeah. What are some tips that you have for salons to get in front of their desired customer base? I know you mentioned like the events that you guys would attend. Is there anything else?
Definitely, like, find out the different groups that are around you, that have the people that you want to serve there. Find out how you can get in front of them. So if it's a community, we'll just say there's men's groups, there's women's groups you can get in front of, right? You can offer your services. You can come in and share with something with them. What is the problem that your guests have that you solve? Like, what is the part that you bring that you can solve for others, individuals that you're looking for to serve? And go in with that, where you can take and do demonstrations. You can do a speech. If you don't like to talk, find out somebody on the team that does and bring them in. I know it's scary for some people to take and do that, but that's one of the biggest and strongest ways you can do. But partnering also with another business is a great way to build that. You can do it with social media even, which is great, But I love the face-to-face, because you can get in front of your guests that you want to attract so much easier. That wide range of social media is a different way of doing it. But also getting into outside community group, like outside of the communities. I'm not saying there's like women groups. So if you want to attract more younger women in business, there's groups for that. If you want to attract men, there's groups for that. If you want to be able to do kids, like some people love doing kids' hair, there's moms of preschoolers, like MOPS, I think it's called. There's so many different ways. So think about what it is that you want to create a list of different ways that you can, and just go for it. The worst thing somebody can say is no. That's it.
Yeah. I know we've hit the end already, but we did get quite a few questions. So I do want to make sure that we hit a few of them before we
Yeah.
log off. Some of the questions that our registrants actually submitted on the form were really interesting. So I will ask you some of those first. What are your tips for managing your salon staff and keeping them motivated?
Motivation is something that is within, so it's kind of hard to motivate people. However, the biggest thing I can say for salon owners is take yourself out of the equation in your business. We all should have meetings with our staff, whether as a whole, which sometimes can get very hairy, right? Because it's always got all the things that we need to change, but really individual meetings, and really sit down with them and find out what their goals are, what they're trying to achieve in their life. You know, if someone's trying to buy a house, but they need a bigger down payment, help them achieve that, like get a game plan, set things out. When they hit their goals and you're helping them reach what they want to for their life, you automatically raise your revenue. Um, I think it's really, that's the biggest thing I would say, like really knowing what your team wants and helping them achieve what they want. Take yourself out of it, your numbers out of it, because automatically helping them, you will grow also.
Yeah, and it's a domino effect, right? If they
It
see that
is.
their leader and their boss is motivated, so will they be.
Mm-hmm.
Next question is, how have you dealt with all the changes in the industry caused by the pandemic?
Well, I think there's been some pros and cons, right? Like I think that there's been good, meaning that the respect of there's more community even within and helping each other, because I am a definite believer that if we help one another, everybody rises to the top and can be successful. So I absolutely love that the industry has changed that way. I think that there's some things that have came with it in the respect to of the way that we maybe handle our guest experiences would be the best way that I could say that. You know, like um, having the attitude of it's more all about me instead of about them. But we are in a service industry, and when you are serving guests like that, you'll win. Then I'm not saying let people take advantage of you and walk all over you. Absolutely not. And they shouldn't. If you're doing your job also, they should be honoring you as much as you honor them. But I would also say that the biggest change is definitely everybody wanting to go independent, and it's not a bad thing, but it's not for everybody. You know, so I
Hmm.
do own a suite building, right? And I have 10 suites. And but my salon is in there too. Like my whole team did not want to take and be independent, be their own boss, right? There were some that did, some that didn't. You can have the best of both worlds, right? But so often that the independent world looks so glamorous, right? And that we're going to make all this money, but sometimes it's not for everybody because they don't know the business part of it or managing their money, and they don't realize the taxes that are being taken out. So that would be
Yeah,
probably the biggest thing that I think is the biggest downfall of everybody going that way. Not everybody, but a lot going that way, but not having the plan or even having the guidance, because you can be successful. Absolutely. You can make a lot more money if you know what you're doing, if you're planning that correctly.
yeah, keying in on if you know what you're doing and if you know what resources to rely on in order to do that, because
And
it's
know
not a
your
one-man
numbers.
show. And
Yeah,
knowing your
know your
numbers.
numbers. Got to know your numbers.
Yeah, yeah, KPIs, numbers, all of that.
Mhm.
Last question, and then guys, for those of you who are listening, I will send a follow-up email to answer the rest of your questions along with this recording. But we did get a few questions about what you mean by touch points, and can you describe or list some of the touch points that you implement at your salon?
So touch points, I mean, like, how are you touching your guests? Meaning, so when they come in, how are they being welcomed? What is your strategy or protocol that you guys have in place? Like, if it's a new guest, are they doing answering a questionnaire online first before they come in, or is it in the salon? Like, are you getting all their information? Make sure you're getting their emails, because when you have all that information, your touch points can be further. So, like, that's a touch point. Um, Even to the point of when a guest is sitting there, can I take your coat for you? Have a place to take their coat. Can I get you some coffee or water or tea, whatever beverages you guys have? And the touch points at the shampoo bowl, you know, your consultation, then at the shampoo bowl or in the treatment room, wherever your, you know, service is at. What are your touch points there? What are you doing different that sets you apart from everybody else? Are you giving hand massages with a hot towel on their head? Like your men's, are you shampooing them after a haircut and putting a hot towel on the face, get all the hair off? You know, like what is it, the touch points that you do that set you apart? That's what I mean by touch points. It's really having that, like when they leave, are you following up with a phone call? Are you sending them an email? Checking in how their retail that they purchased from you is working, the haircut's working, the treatment that they had on their face is doing what you wanted. Those are the touch points. And then if they didn't book an appointment, like that's your opportunity to book them then, even. If they didn't purchase the retail that you suggested, that's your opportunity to have them purchase it there online. If you're not selling online, I think you're missing some money there because almost all products now have an affiliate that we can do, which I love now. It's not just the influencers that can sell our products, we can too online.
I love it. Karen, thank you so much. This was all so helpful and so insightful. The questions just keep coming in and we don't have enough time to answer all of them, but I'm really going to make sure that we answer that in the follow-up emails. Again, you guys will receive an email from us with the recording of this. You can watch it back at any time. And regarding touch points, we actually will have a downloadable sheet for you guys to use as a guide, either to print out or to access online. And you guys will be able to send that to your staff and use it for yourself as well. So keep an eye out for that email from me at DaySmart Salon. And again, Karen, thank you so much. I'm sure we'll have you on again at some point. We'll see. But I just really appreciate. Yeah, no, thank you. It's been great, and I appreciate the time that you took to speak with all of us. So yeah, thank you guys, and have a great rest of your week.
Have a great day.
Bye, guys.